Now, our town manager, Michael Malaguti, will present the State of the Town address.
Mr. Moderator, members of the Town Council, Budget Committee, other elected officials, Londonderry citizens. Londonderry is in a time of transition. After my predecessor, Kevin Smith, resigned 1 year and 4 days ago, I became acting town manager at midnight that evening. The ensuing 12 months have been, for me, the longest and shortest of years. We have accomplished much in this short time. Immediately after taking office, with a possible recession on the horizon, I directed town departments to curtail discretionary spending. The finance director and I have strictly enforced the purchasing policy, and we have put more items out to bid than ever before, saving the town tens of thousands of dollars. Each week, the finance director and I separately review and approve every town purchase with a critical eye, often requiring additional documentation and justification from town departments for their purchases. This exercise may seem mundane, but it is important. It is a significant investment of time, reflective of our commitment to fiscal restraint and to holding ourselves and our staff to the highest standards. As a result of these efforts, and with the careful management by the department heads of their own budgets, Londonderry ended fiscal year 23 with a surplus of $1.5 million. That is no small accomplishment, with year-over-year inflation running between 7.9 and 9.1% in my first 6 months in office. We saw cost increases coming, and we reacted quickly, allowing us to continue delivering the services residents expect well within the existing budget. Today is the conclusion of budget season in Londonderry, a process that started for the finance director and me in late summer. Shortly after taking office, I sounded the alarm on a budgetary practice we have been following for the past decade. Year after year, the town manager and town council have proposed, and the voters have adopted, an operating budget lower than the default budget. While budgetary restraint is a laudable goal, this has frozen in time important budget lines such as building and vehicle maintenance, training for our police officers and firefighters, roadway maintenance, and engineering services, which together are overspent by hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. We have covered these necessary expenses by leaving positions unfilled in our public safety departments, mostly in the police department. While this practice has worked, it was inevitable that it would eventually catch up with us. That time is now. Not only does spending within these neglected lines increase with time, the police department is in a critical need to fill all of the positions the voters have approved. And to state the obvious, robbing Peter to pay Paul is the opposite of budgetary transparency. We devised a way to temporarily budget less for 4 vacant police patrol officer positions while still retaining these positions in the budget. We used the savings to reinforce the frozen lines to reflect the actual need in fiscal year 24 instead of fiscal year 14. These changes will serve the town well for years, because even though we again propose an operating budget under default, for the first time in a decade, we are able to right-size these neglected lines. In doing so, we make important steps towards transparency. The budget should tell the taxpayers what we need and where we need it, instead of telling them what we need in total and to trust us with the rest. There are other reasons I am proud of the budget I proposed to the town council and which they adopted. In a time of rising costs, we started off deep in the hole, with increases to the default budget of more than $200,000 for our trash and recycling contract, almost $800,000 in health insurance premiums, and more than $500,000 in contractual salary and wage increases. Despite these large cost increases, the total appropriation I propose is a mere $16,047 higher than last year's request. How did we do it? It started during our internal budget process. The department heads submitted their requests for the coming fiscal year, and the finance director and I carefully scrutinized them, rejecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in department head asks. We took a hard look at the whole spending picture, which includes separate warrant articles, instead of focusing solely on the budget as we have sometimes done in the past. We halved the typical request to fund the roadway maintenance expendable trust fund, and we are taking a year off from the usual request to fund the master plan capital reserve. We eliminated almost $40,000 from the cable department's budget we determined was unnecessary. These are hard choices, to be sure, but at a time when the average household is spending almost $500 more a month than at this time last year, I am confident most voters will understand the choices we have made. Taxpayers benefit not only from careful budgetary planning and management, but also from a healthy tax base. By redeveloping and developing commercial and industrial areas in a responsible manner, we can allocate as much of the tax burden as possible to commercial and industrial users instead of residential taxpayers. My administration is taking a comprehensive but workmanlike approach to economic development, focusing less on flashy, high-profile, public-facing efforts and more on ensuring we get the fundamentals right in order to create conditions that will drive development. We passed the Commercial and Industrial Property Tax Exemption Program, which will be a major draw for development and a major benefit to taxpayers. We are focused relentlessly on expanding the water and sewer infrastructure high-end users demand, securing $4 million with the support of Senator Shaheen and Congressman Pappas to upgrade sewer capacity in South Londonderry and speed up the completion of Woodmont Commons. We've questioned settled practices and gotten creative about how we allocate sewer capacity. We've requested an additional $4 million from the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery for water and sewer infrastructure in the Exit 4A area. We completed the Lancaster Drive Waterline Extension Project, which will not only mitigate PFAS contamination and protect property values on Lancaster Drive, it will resolve liability concerns for the new owner of the Apple Tree Mall, allowing him to continue investing in the mall and in the town. And the town paid nothing, because we secured another grant, this time for $400,000, to cover what the town had previously agreed to pay. We're also focused on improving traffic flow and safety on our roads, which of course is a key ingredient of economic development. We advocated with our representatives in Concord for a one-time payment to Londonderry of $1 million for town-owned roads and bridges, and we finalized our contract with DOT to complete intersection upgrades at Route 28 and Stonehenge Road. We have also taken a look at the organization of our town departments and our development regulations to ensure they are calibrated for an efficient development process. We are working to improve communication between the town staff and planning board, and we are looking hard at our design review process to ensure not only that it is efficient as it can be, but also that the planning board and the public understand it. We're in the process of reviewing the Route 102 and Route 28 overlay districts to ensure the complexity they add to the zoning ordinance remains justified. And we will soon propose an amendment to the zoning ordinance to reduce the need for some applicants to go back and forth between the planning board and the zoning board of adjustment. I would be remiss if I did not pause to highlight the importance of the town council's investment in economic development when it confirmed Kelly Caron as assistant town manager and director of economic development. Her expertise and judgment in the area of planning and economic development have brought new energy to this effort. For the first time in at least a decade, there is someone else, in addition to the town manager alone, working on economic development in Londonderry every day. At the beginning of 2023, we are poised to soon announce new big projects that will pay dividends to Londonderry's taxpayers. Our successes are not confined to the budget and economic development. We have invested significant time and money in securing Town Hall and the library and protecting those who work and visit there. We've worked to protect public health and the environment, completing the Lancaster Drive project, conserving Lithia Springs, and studying upgrades to the town's water infrastructure. In a single year, we've improved exponentially the security of the town's computer and IT systems in order to protect the public's sensitive information kept on our servers. We've successfully negotiated collective bargaining agreements with fire and police department unions, allowing us to compete in the labor market with comparable communities and, more importantly, to recognize our first responders who, without overstatement, are the best in the state. We've improved transparency in all areas, televising the meetings of more boards and committees, making it easier for the public to access video of these meetings from the front page of the website, posting all legal notices in a single area on the website, and responding quickly and openly when possible to public requests for information. And when someone brought a Confederate flag to our annual Old Home Day parade, we took a stand against this disgraceful symbol of hate. While a few attempted to distract from this deplorable display by drawing false equivalencies, I have never regretted taking that stand. As I stated on August 21st, 2022, supporters of this symbol of racism, hate, and treason will find no refuge in Londonderry. In one short year, the Town Council and I have worked cooperatively to install a new police chief, director of senior affairs, HR manager, and a second deputy fire chief. We reorganized the police department, creating a new division of legal and professional standards to house the prosecution unit and the accreditation office. We made additional changes to the planning and economic development and human resources departments, streamlining and calibrating our operations to take advantage of our strengths and reinforce our weaknesses. We filled the important positions of controller and assistant assessor, which had been vacant for too long. And I appointed, and the Town Council confirmed, Kelly Caron as Assistant Town Manager and Director of Economic Development. Her reach is much broader than economic development. In 6 months, she rose from Town Planner to Assistant Town Manager. Know this, I will never hesitate to elevate and empower the town's most talented, hardworking, and competent employees, whether they have worked here for 6 months or 16 years. Some of my appointments have been to other senior positions as well. Chief Bernard is one of the most decent people I know. Since I met him in 2018, I never questioned this. Yet, following Chief Hart's retirement, I did not immediately appoint him chief, a decision that angered some and cost me at least one cherished friendship. I made the decision I believe to be in the town's best interests, a decision hindsight teaches was a mistake. But instead of doubling down on that mistake, I pivoted and corrected it, appointing Kim Bernard as Chief of Police on October 3rd, 2022. This decision angered different people, costing me other friendships. I can proudly say that under Chief Bernard's leadership, the future of Londonderry Police Department has never been brighter. I can also proudly say that in my first year in office, I have regularly made decisions that have been personally costly yet right for the town. There was a path of less resistance, to be sure, and I was always conscious of it. It would have reshaped the town less, but taken less from me. Always, I chose the other path. If there has been a defining feature of my tenure, I suggest it is this. Tough decisions, it's what I am paid to do. Some of these decisions inevitably affect our workforce. You can't manage more than 200 people without making certain people and even departments unhappy. And when my decisions affect people's jobs, livelihoods, emotions, rumors, fears, and anxieties naturally run high. The curse of leadership is that while I am empowered, in fact duty-bound to make these difficult decisions, I am not free to publicly discuss all of my reasoning and all of the circumstances, leaving a void that will always be occupied by the disgruntled, uninformed, those having an agenda, or worse yet, by publications writing one-sided pieces without even bothering to ask for comment. And, of course, my critics are unencumbered by any such restrictions. Before you believe the headlines and conclude there is something wrong at Town Hall or with my leadership or that morale is low, consider this for a second. You have 10% of the story. I value and have invested in the morale and well-being of our Town Hall workforce, more than you know. Yet, here I depart from some of those who have gone before me. The town manager is not everyone's friend, and while we sometimes refer to Town Hall as a family, Town Hall is a professional workplace. We are public servants who deserve a healthy, happy, and respectful place of work. We can and we should care about each other, yet we are also accountable to each other, and ultimately to the public. To those who look at me and long for yesterday, I suggest this. I am not Londonderry's first manager to fit this mold. The predecessor of my predecessor, Chief William Ryan Hart Jr., served as acting town manager for more than a year during an earlier time of transition. He hired me in 2018, and much of what I know about leadership I learned from Bill Hart. While he treated everyone with respect, decency, and compassion, Bill made the decisions he believed were in the town's best interests, and he never apologized for them. No one who worked for Bill ever mistook him for a friend. He was first a leader. And so, at the end of my first year in office, I'm proudest of having served the town with integrity. During difficult circumstances, I repeatedly placed the town's interests ahead of my own. I made hard calls others had been unwilling to make for years, at a personal cost known only to me and my family. Behind the scenes and publicly, I unflinchingly stood up for the exceptional public servants who represent the town and serve the public day in and day out. I told people the truth, whether they wanted to hear it or not, and I devoted nearly all of my waking hours to the town's service. It is easy to look back on the hardest, most defining year of my life and replay the difficult, controversial decisions I have made. I have certainly done that in spades. But one thing I have never done, not once, is to recollect the past year and wish that I had been more like Kevin Smith, Bill Hart, Dave Caron, or any one of my other predecessors. In my first year in office, I served as town manager the only way I know how, as myself. And that is one thing that will never change. Mr. Moderator, the state of the town is strong and the future of Londonderry is bright. It has been the privilege of my life to serve as town manager in a time of change and opportunity. May God bless our community.